Welcome back to the High Vibe Life podcast with me, your host, Moira Casaba. And I have a really fun friend in the studio today. Well, not in the studio, the virtual studio. But right before we started recording, I was actually telling her, I was like, if you lived in Charleston, you would literally be my best friend because we think so similarly about the world of health and wellness and fitness and also mindset, right? It is very rare to meet another woman that really truly gets the inside game that's behind the outside game. So I am so excited to bring into the studio Kristine Rucker. Thanks for being here today. So excited to have you.
Oh my gosh. It is my pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Kristine splits her time between Wisconsin and Scottsdale, Arizona. You may have seen her on the gram. She's got quite a huge following and she's known as the arm coach, which is so fun because, I mean, you see literally one picture, one video, you're like, I want those arms. I want those arms. Tell me all the things. So she's not only going to tell us today how to get her arms, but she's going to tell us really the secret sauce behind that. So Kristine, would you, if you don't mind, kind of tell us the backstory of like, how did you get here doing this work in the world? I always love to know the experts that I'm learning from, and you are such an incredible expert at what you do. What's the backstory? What's the life story, right? You know, like obviously I shared where you're living, but like, you know, are you a mom and what does it look like professionally for what you do? We're all juggling so many hats. So do you mind pulling back the curtain just on all of it?
For sure. Yeah, for sure. So my backstory is a little messy, honestly. I spent years fighting my body, like, you know, decades of losing weight, gaining it back, you know, feeling hopeful for like 2 minutes and then totally, you know, crashing and burning. You know, I was a single mom of 2 little kids and just trying to, you know, manage myself and my kids. And, you know, it was a lot, but you know, that whole energy of like, okay, this time I'm serious.
Yes,
right?
Like every Monday morning.
Right, exactly. And that's it. That was me on repeat.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, I really believed if I could just work harder, right? If I could be more disciplined, right? Really force myself into the perfect routine, then I'd finally feel confident, right? And I genuinely thought like toned arms or losing weight, you know, that was the key to like inner peace. Right? Like, girl, if your triceps just popped, right, all your problems would magically, you know, disappear, right?
Yes, totally.
Spoiler, they didn't, right?
Right.
Yeah, and I actually went all the way and I competed in a figure competition, you know, thinking that would fix me. And I won. I literally took home a trophy, which
congratulations. That's incredible. That's incredible. That's a huge feat.
Yeah. You know, going from 200 pounds to winning a figure competition, right?
Yeah.
It was crazy. And I thought that was the answer. But the next morning, I looked in the mirror and Moira, I felt exactly the same. I felt the same emptiness that I'd been trying to outrun for years. And it was like this gut punch moment of like, oh, okay, changing my body didn't fix anything because I didn't change who I believe I am.
Right.
And, you know, that was the crack in the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so from there, you know, I got obsessed. Right?
Yeah.
Neuroscience, habits, identity, emotional patterns, got certified as a life coach, right? All of it.
This is why you would be my best friend.
Right? I mean, I just went all in.
It's like literally the same exact path. I'm like, yes.
Yes. And I started realizing, you know, women over 50 aren't inconsistent because they're lazy or because things don't work like they used to. They're inconsistent because they don't trust themselves anymore, right?
Yeah.
They spent decades proving that, you know, the story that they're a woman who quits.
Right.
So their brain keeps leading them right back to that identity.
Yeah.
And listen, like I knew that feeling, way too well, right? So
Yeah.
I had to rebuild, and it was slow, right? With like micro trust, like the
Yes.
tiniest promises, with rewiring, the identity that I'd been dragging around for years.
Yeah.
And that really is what changed everything,
Yeah.
not just my body, but my relationship with myself.
Yeah.
And that's how I became the arm coach, right? Not because
Yeah.
I wanted to, teach women bicep curls,
Right.
but because I wanted them to know they're not broken and they're
Yes.
not behind, right?
And it's really just, I mean, you said so much, but landing on that right there, that you're not broken, to me, and I know that you understand this, it's literally just a brain wiring problem. Like we have wired up an identity that hasn't served us, and we are always going to live from that identity until you come to work with somebody like you that can teach you how to take those micro actions and focus on those actions, right? Versus the thousands of times you've quit on yourself, because that's what you're focused on, because that's what you've done your whole life. If we can start to focus in on those little tiny wins, just like you said, building that self-trust back, it's everything. It's everything. I mean, oh my gosh, I think about this so often, and you and I both get this on such a level. I also want to pause 1 second and take people back to that moment that you won that trophy, because that is a harder place to be. When you've actually accomplished the thing that you thought was the top of the mountain, that was going to give you the joy, that was going to give you the self-worth, and it's empty, right? That's harder to be there than to be unsuccessful and still have a shred of hope that if I can just do this thing, it'll all be fine. Yeah. And that's like where the fork comes in the road, because you're like, oh my gosh, I did the thing and it didn't work.
Yeah. And to be honest, I think I was more afraid once I won that competition, because I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to continue in that body.
For sure. Yeah, because that is unsustainable.
Because
we all
all
know
the
that.
evidence, all my past evidence, because I could lose weight, right? But then I'd always gain it back.
Right.
So that was the thing. It's like, oh my gosh, here I have won an award for a trophy for my body. And so what will that mean about me?
Right.
If I can't stay at this level.
Right.
Yeah. So that's
powerful.
why it was so empty. I mean, I was, because the fear before was that I was going to live in an overweight body that I didn't like. And now I had the body, but I couldn't even enjoy it because I was so afraid I couldn't keep it.
Yeah, the fear just comes in on you, right? The fear, the doubt, the uncertainty, all of it.
Because I believed that I was a person that couldn't maintain. First of all, I knew I could lose weight. I knew I could tone my body, but I didn't believe that I was a person that could maintain or be a naturally fit, a naturally toned person. I didn't believe that.
Wow. That is so powerful. And I think, I just want everyone to hear this, because we both know, having walked this path for decades, both of us, that there's even still people listening thinking, but if I could just get the body, I think I'm different. And I think it would make me happy. And we're here to tell you, like, it doesn't work that way, or you'll get it and revert back. You'll get it and revert back. Like you will always go back. And it's why we can see shows like The Biggest Loser, right? Or something like that, where it's like they transform their body, right? They lose 200 pounds. And then if you follow anybody like that for, years later, 98% of them have just gone right back. And it's like, well, you changed your habits, which we can all change our habits. Yeah. But if you don't change your identity, the root of who you are, you will always revert back to your identity. Always. Right. You're not going to revert back to habits. You're not always going to be able to sustain habits. Yeah. Your identity is the foundation of every single thing you create in your life.
Everything. Your brain likes familiar.
Yes. Right? So it's always going to go back.
Yeah. So we think we're sabotaging ourselves, but really our brain thinks it's protecting us
Yes.
and keeping us safe,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because, so
can we got to land on that for a second, because that's so big, right? We've heard about self-sabotage our whole lives, and it used to be even more of a buzzword. You know, we used to throw it around a lot more, self-sabotage. And so we're so familiar with it. And so we identify with the second we eat the cake or don't go to the gym, we're just like, oh, I'm self-sabotaging. Like, here I go again. And you're rooting that into your identity. Here I go again. That's telling yourself, I am the type of person that will always self-sabotage. And so you're literally laying the groundwork for becoming more of a self-sabotager.
Yes.
And I love how you take this also into that little pivot of like, we don't have to change everything, right? We don't have to do this. We don't have to go to extremes. Talk a little bit more about these micro habits that start to rebuild identity and self-trust, because that's like, oh, thank you, Jesus. It doesn't have to be so overwhelming, because really that's what we're used to doing, right? Going to extremes and then stopping, going to extremes and then stopping. It doesn't have to look like that.
Yeah. So I think that, when they have this belief that they can't stick with it, and they look at their history and think, see, I've always struggled, right? Something must be wrong with me.
Yeah.
But inconsistency isn't a moral failing.
Right.
Okay. It's not a lack of motivation, and it's definitely not a sign that they're, too far gone or too old or, whatever. So what I teach is that inconsistency is actually an identity mismatch. So it's the brain trying to act like a woman who wants toned arms while still holding the identity of a woman who doesn't believe that she can have them. Right. And the moment you understand the neuroscience behind identity, right? How you're, like we were talking, how your brain's designed to repeat whatever feels familiar, then everything makes sense, right? And your brain isn't sabotaging you, right? It's just protecting you, right? So the big shift most women miss is that they try to act their way into toned arms. So, like if I can just force the workouts or force the plan or the discipline, then I can finally be consistent. But it actually works the other way around. So behavior doesn't create identity. Identity creates behavior.
Yes. Okay. Can you say that one more time for the people in the back?
Yes.
It's so big. It's so powerful.
It really is. Behavior doesn't create identity. Identity creates behavior. Yeah. So if a woman sees herself as someone who quits, her brain will quietly guide her right back to what feels familiar, because the brain loves what it knows.
Yes.
The moment her identity starts to shift, okay, then everything will soften and the resistance will ease, right? The self-sabotage quiets, and showing up starts to feel natural instead of exhausting, right?
Yes.
So I'll never forget this one night. I walked into the kitchen and I was like convinced that I was starving, right? Like that urgent kind of hunger, right?
Yes.
Like I gotta eat right now, angry, right? But for once, I paused long enough to just kind of check in with myself. And what I discovered is I wasn't hungry. It wasn't hunger, it was loneliness, right? It was stress and fear and self-doubt. Really it was the ache of not feeling enough. And I realized my arms weren't struggling because of food, right? They were struggling because I didn't know how to sit with myself. And once I learned to feel instead of flee, then everything started shifting, right? My cravings changed, my patterns changed, my ability to follow through changed. Yeah. Right. And I just think so many women keep starting over, because they think they're weak, but really they're repeating the only pattern their brain believes is safe. Right. And so perfectionism leads to burnout, and then burnout leads to shame, And then shame leads to restart. So it's a cycle that their nervous system recognizes. And until you interrupt that identity, no workout plan can override the brain's need for familiar.
Right.
Right.
This is so good. Oh my gosh, Kristen. It's literally like, and you've said so many pieces that have pulled back the layers of the onion for me, because it's not just, I always think like, oh, this isn't a character problem. This isn't a character flaw. Instead of wearing this cloak of shame because I reverted back to my old behavior. When I understood how the brain works, like you said, just a few simple things. I didn't go take a neuroscience class at university or anything. It was like, I understood a few basic things and I was like, oh my gosh. And for me, I let go of a 20-year eating disorder as soon as I understood how my brain worked. Yes. And I thought, this has nothing to do with my character. This has nothing to do with my morals. This has nothing to do with my willpower. This is literally just my brain, which is just a computer, and it's programmed wrong. But you're taking that a step further and even helping me understand it's actually not just a computer. It's a computer that's designed to protect you. And it's actually doing somewhat the right thing in terms of the protection mechanism. It's just the trigger and the action it's not correct, right? Because we've lined it up wrong. And that is mind blowing. Like I hope people are hearing that.
Yeah. Well, it's a habit loop, right? And habit loops are learned. Which is amazing because they can be unlearned. Yeah. And you unlearn it by micro trust, right? That you asked me about before. That's how you rewire them. One night I was cooking dinner and I was feeling like a failure because I had skipped my workout. And so instead of spiraling, right, like I would have done in the past, I grabbed my dumbbells right then and there, and I did one set while the pan was on the stovetop, like simmering, right? Yeah. So I did one set, and then, I did another. Now, it wasn't a perfect workout, right? But it was a moment where I proved to myself, yes, I can trust me, even in small ways. And listen, those tiny moments build more consistency than any intense plan ever could. Yeah.
Because those intense plans really just come from the motivation that's going to pass and the willpower that's going to pass, right?
Exactly.
I love these micro moments where really you're giving yourself what you need in that moment, the self-love, the care. And I'd love to hear your take on this, because this was a huge shift out of like years of disordered eating for me, was when I also realized that sometimes the healthy thing, the best thing for me is not eating the chocolate cake. I used to think it was always not eating the chocolate cake was the best thing I could do. But then I had the shift where I was like, no. Sometimes one of the most loving things I can do for myself is allow myself to eat the chocolate cake. So 100%. The same action, or the opposite, I should say, eating the chocolate cake, not eating the chocolate cake, can be building self-trust, right?
Exactly. And so it's not the cake, right? Yeah. It's the intention. Yes. It's where that's coming from. It's when we tell ourselves, oh my God, what have I done? I didn't mean to do that. If we were to pause and just check in, it's like, okay, I can eat the cake. I'm a grown woman. Like I can have the cake. What do I want to do? And when you choose with intention, that's trust. Yes. When you tell yourself, I'm going to have a piece of cake, and you have a piece of cake, that's trust, right? It's when you eat the whole pan, or, whatever it is, right? And so it's not the cake, it's the promise to yourself.
I just had this like vision almost where it's like, think about that with a child, right? If you were to say, oh no, we're not stopping on the way home, we're going home. And you go home. The child trusts you're going home. Okay, my mom, I trust my mom. She said we're going home, so I'm going to be home in a few minutes. And if you said, oh no, we got to make a stop on the way home, and then, we'll go home after we stop, you think, okay, different route, but we're going to stop at this place and then we're going to go home. You just trust in your parent. That's what you're talking about with intention. That's
1000%.
powerful.
1000%. You know, you don't have a motivation problem, right? You have an alignment problem. When your identity doesn't match your desired future, then everything feels uphill, right? But when your identity shifts, you get pulled toward the future instead of pushing your way there.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's manifestation, that's neuroscience, that's alignment.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, this is so good. So can you give us a few more nuggets, right? We've got this idea of like the self-trust and how I feel like we get so busy and we're so just going a million miles an hour that it is hard, right? To pause in those moments and go, okay, what is the intention? How do you teach this? And you don't have to give it to us all because I want people to come join you and sign up for all your things and hire you and all of that. Because I know how much impactful work you do in the world and that you really shift this for people. But can you give us a little bit more of that process?
So I feel there are 3 shifts that change everything, especially for women over 50. And I think the first shift is stop chasing perfection and start chasing identity. Okay.
Yes.
Because perfection keeps women stuck in a start and stop mode. Right. But identity says, I'm the kind of woman who shows up even imperfectly.
Yes.
Right. And when that becomes the goal, right, then consistency, it stops feeling so unattainable.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So
good. So good. It's like identity is the goal. Identity is the goal. Because I always think about this in ways of like, you have a goal, say it's to lose 20 pounds. And we're just so focused on the goal that sometimes we don't even focus on the habits, right? We're just focused on the goal. And it's like, well, that's not going to happen. You got to focus on the habits. But we know you got to take it a step further. And you're like, the habits are only going to last so long if you don't shift your identity. But I love just replacing the end goal instead of it being, I mean, it is, we are saying, obviously we know the identity in that identity, that future identity is you want to be 20 pounds less, but there's so much more to that woman, right? Yeah,
exactly. And you know, and so many women present like, I can't be consistent.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, okay, is that true? I'm sure there's some part of your life that you're consistent. Right. You show up to work consistently. But we discredit that. Well, that doesn't count.
Right.
Well, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of like, no, I am a woman that can be consistent.
Yeah.
Right.
I love this so much because you know what is so powerful about the work that you do as well is kind of your audience, right? The people that you're pouring into. I mean, we so often think I'm 48, almost 49. So it's like, so many of us just think like, well, this is all we've got, you know, like I am who I am. And like it's so easy to rewire. It's so easy to shift. Even if you haven't been somebody that's been able to be consistent for 50 years, it's no harder to change it than it is to stay that way. Right. And our words have so much power. And I'm sure you teach this as well, but like, especially the words that come after I am. You know, it's like, even if we're just like, oh, I'm so tired. It's like we say things unconsciously almost that when we say I'm so tired, we just get more tired. You know, I'll never forget being at a Tony Robbins event. You know, I don't know if you've ever gone. They're like 16-hour days. And so I walk into the hotel. We've been hearing all this stuff for 16 hours straight. And I walk into the room and I was like, oh my gosh, my back's killing me. And I literally was like, oh, wait, because I'm so aware of the power of it. And we say things like my back is killing me when I'm like, actually, it's just a little tight.
Totally.
Might need to sit down for a second. Totally. And I just literally said, my back is killing me. Like, what? I know. We're so unconscious of our words.
I know. We are so dramatic, right? Even when it comes to like feelings. Right. You know, like, you know, loneliness or boredom or, you know, frustration or whatever. It's like you will eat or scroll or binge on Netflix, anything to not avoid this feeling.
Right.
But when you tune in, right, and literally ask yourself, what, like, what am I running from? What does it actually feel like to be bored? It's like, okay, well, it's like maybe kind of like a heaviness on my shoulders or kind of a pit in my, like it's nothing.
It's not life ending. Like, yes.
No. But we will abandon our goals to avoid having to process that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially because we are so dramatic.
With like, with the scroll and everything. I know I remember too, many years ago, being upset about something and having the epiphany because I was like, I'm so whatever. And somebody was like, well, maybe just a part of you is. And I was like, what do you mean? But it was this huge epiphany. Like, actually, you're right. A part of me is angry. Not all of me, like, but the shift from like, I'm so angry, meaning like every part of my being, to being like, well, actually a part of me is angry about this situation. Like, how much does that diffuse and dissolve something, right?
That's totally
literally overtaking every part of your being, which is what we're talking about, identity.
Exactly. Every thought we think creates a feeling for us, and actions are driven by feelings. Right. So we have to be careful with the language in which we express our thoughts. Right.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure it's creating a feeling that will encourage the actions that will get you closer to your goal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is, becoming a naturally toned woman. Right. It's like, the way I'm thinking about this, does this create a feeling for me that will enable me to take actions towards being a naturally toned woman?
So
right? Like
good.
You said that you were tired, right? Like, oh, I'm so tired. It's like, okay, well, how do you want to think about being tired that's going to get you to your goal, right? It's like, okay, I can push through another 30 minutes to get a few reps in, or, however you just want to be intentional with how you choose to think about circumstances.
Right.
And
I love that.
I literally ask myself, like, okay, maybe there's an urge, like a temptation for something. I literally pause enough and say, what would a naturally toned woman do right now? Like, what would I imagine that she would do?
Right.
Right. And that's like in the kitchen when I was cooking dinner and I was like spiraling over not working out. I'm like, well, a naturally toned woman would probably do something right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. And that's that shift. And I love that you said it almost outside of yourself, because sometimes I think it's hard to be like, if I was this person, because you're feeling like you're not. Because I can remember when I first started doing some of this work, I had to like have somebody that I knew or knew of in the world, right? That I really admired. And I thought that they were super healthy and they just had this healthy lifestyle and vibrancy. And I remember walking in the grocery store and kind of seeing somebody that reminded me of like who I had in my head. And I was like, well, how would she be walking into the grocery store? How would simple things like just going about your everyday life? It's like, well, how would a naturally toned woman drive in her car? How would you, it's those little tiny things that you can start to shift into the beingness of where you want to go.
Bridge, right?
Yes.
It's like a bridge from who we think we are right now to where we want to be. And once you start taking a few of those actions, those micro actions that you believe that a naturally toned woman is, you start building evidence for yourself that you are becoming a naturally toned woman. And then next thing you know, you are.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. And go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, because so often if we think about this in real life, because we've all probably had this experience of either going down the putting on weight path or losing the weight path. And we can understand what we're talking about when we think about, when you start to wake up and you start to be like, gosh, I feel kind of good. Like my muscles feel tight. When you feel that, then you start to make the right decisions. You're doing what we're talking about, but you're doing it just by default because you're feeling in your body good that day. But then what happens is there's days where we're like, ugh, I just feel puffy and inflamed and gross. And then you're like, okay, now I'm making all the bad decisions because that's what you're feeling, right?
Yes.
And so that's
Yes.
why weight loss can happen, because you're like stepping into that identity. And that's also why weight gain can escalate and just keep going and going and going, because you're stepping into that identity that you don't want. You're feeling the way that you don't want to feel when you wake up in the morning.
Exactly. I mean, I, for decades, right, thought if I just hated myself enough,
right,
then I could, I could like, I don't even know the word. I could, change my life, right? Like if I
can beat myself up enough,
myself to take the actions, right?
Yeah.
But it was the opposite.
It's the absolute opposite.
I love myself so much that I want to take care of it. I want to fuel it with food that feels good. I want to move in a way that, creates longevity for me, and it's a completely different energy. It's not willpower, right? It's not a push. It's just kind of a pull now. It's like, this is what I want to do for myself. And that's how it turns into being a natural thing that you do for yourself.
Yeah. I mean, my energy just like lights up when you talk about that pull, because you're right. It's like we've just tried so hard to push that boulder up the hill for so long. And this way, it almost sounds too easy, too good to be true. But like, I'm like, I know that this is true because I've lived it. And there is such an easier, softer way to get to your goals. Yeah.
100%.
So good.
Another shift that I think it's so important for women to make is really to see consistency as a relationship, not a behavior.
Oh.
Okay, because
tell me more about that.
Well, consistency isn't about doing everything right.
Yeah.
Okay. It's about how you treat yourself when life gets messy. Okay. Do you abandon yourself? Right? Do you just throw your goals out the window? Do you just like say, well, F it, that whatever, I can't do this or whatever.
Yeah.
Or do you stay connected? Right? Stay connected to yourself. And when women, when you can kind of make that shift, right? Yes, your arms will change. But more importantly, you change.
Yeah. So good. So good. That's a huge thing right there. That is, I mean, I hope people got that, because shifting that from looking at it as a behavior is just radically different. And I teach a lot of, like focusing and writing down where you are winning, kind of building, the credit for yourself. Like, I've done these things and doing that. And it's interesting to me because so many women think that those have to be like achievements. And I'm like, no. So many days, the shift for me, because that used to be me. Like, what did I do right today? You're telling me I need to write down everything I did correctly, and it's like, no. Today, I let myself sleep in because my body needed it, right?
Exactly.
Where before that would be 100% in the negative column because I had this image of perfection. And I think one of the biggest turning points in my life too was I remember when I actually stepped into the world of online coaching and wellness. And I thought, oh gosh, now I'm going to be like in front of everybody on social media. So I really have to do this thing perfectly. It was probably 15 years ago. Yeah. I reached out to, I don't even remember who this was, but I remember it was a male coach. And I was like, hey, and I was kind of like, telling on myself, like, I don't do this thing perfectly. And I was trying to ask him, like, can you like give me the secret sauce so I can do this perfectly like you and all these other successful fit people? And I remember he was like, what are you talking about? Like he was kind of because I had this illusion of all these people were doing it perfectly and I just couldn't. Right. And I remember thank God it was a guy too, because he really didn't even understand the question. He's like, I don't even understand what you're saying. And finally I got down to him being like, Moira, I don't ever do this perfectly. And I was like, what? I was like, but I thought everyone that was successful and fit did this perfectly 7 days a week. And he was like, oh, hell no. It was like and he's like, I also don't see it as like failing or falling off the wagon. He's like, I just lived that like 90, 10, 80, 20 lifestyle. And I was literally felt like, I peeked behind the curtain in The Wizard of Oz. I was like, what?
Yeah.
But it was permission. It was permission that to be successful and to be fit and to be healthy, it wasn't about perfection. That the idea of perfection was the thing that was keeping me stuck.
Exactly. I was just going to say that. What if doing it imperfectly was the goal?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
We think doing it perfectly is the goal, and that leads to it leads to, one tiny little slip, and it's like, oh, there we go.
Yep.
But what if the goal is to do it imperfectly consistently?
Yes. Yes.
Right. Just like in the kitchen, just grabbing my dumbbells and doing a few reps here and there.
Yeah.
Right.
And I remember that also.
Like
everything starts to shift.
Yeah.
It sounds so silly. And I love your example of just picking up the dumbbells when you're cooking, because I can remember starting to have that shift from the all or nothing black and white. If I wasn't doing it perfectly, if I didn't go to the gym on Monday, well, I guess I'll start next week. Well, there's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but that's literally how I lived. And the micro shift of when I would catch myself in those moments of like, remember to be intentional, I would just go to the sink and drink some water. And that little action.
It's a pause
was like,
too.
Yeah. It's the pause, and it's doing something that was loving to myself.
Exactly.
That was, and it sounds so silly. It's like a few sips of water. I'm like, that's how it really started.
Yeah. And it interrupted that cycle. It interrupted the loop. Right?
Yeah.
Because before you'd say, F it, I'm done. And then you were done. But instead, right, you interrupted that, like, well, I'm going to regroup here and get a drink of water.
Yeah.
Cycle interrupted.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, powerful.
Just amazing.
Powerful.
I know.
Yeah.
And along the lines of that perfectionism, I think that's really why I created Arms by Kristine, right?
Yeah.
Like we're going to focus on the arms, right? Like we're not going to completely overhaul our lives.
Right.
We are going to start with the arms. Because women don't need another strict plan. Right?
No.
They need a space to to rebuild trust with themselves, right? To shift their identity, to become the version of themselves that naturally follows through.
Yeah.
Right?
I want to hear more about this. So I know we probably have to wrap in a little bit. So perfect timing for you to bring this up, because I'm like, I want to know, how do people work with you? Do you do one-on-one coaching, group coaching? What does this program look like? Give us all the ins and outs, and we will put everything in the show notes for anybody listening. So just head over there. All the links will be there. But what does this look like to work with you in this program?
Yeah. So Arms by Kristine is a digital program that blends, simple, doable workouts, right, with deep identity work and emotional tools, right? So women feel strong again from the inside out.
Yes.
Right? Because
so
the toned
good.
arms are toned arms.
They're a byproduct.
They are just the physical proof, right, of who they become along the way.
Yes. Oh.
Yeah.
So good. So good. And I will tell anyone who's listening, the testimonials and like the aha moments and the shifts that I have seen on your Instagram, like it lights me up, because again, I know what you're doing in that program, meaning like I get the importance of this work, and it makes my heart so happy to see you impacting so many lives.
Oh my gosh. I have the best following. I really do. I feel so blessed. Yeah.
That is amazing.
If there's one thing that I want every woman listening, to hear, it's that you're not too old, right?
Yeah.
And you are not behind, right? And you definitely aren't someone who can't stick with something, right?
Right.
You're simply a woman who hasn't been shown her power yet.
Yes.
I believe that with my whole heart. And once you rebuild trust with yourself, right, even in the smallest moments, like we've been talking about today, you become unstoppable, right? Your confidence will expand, right? And your habits will shift and your body will respond.
Yeah.
Right? So toned arms aren't the goal.
But they will happen.
They're the evidence of you choosing yourself.
Yes.
Right? And you can change your identity in your 50s and your 60s and your 70s, right? You can create anything, right? You're just getting started. I'm 57. I just turned 57 and I feel like
You're 57?
I just turned 57 on Monday when we were snowed in.
Happy
North
birthday.
Carolina on my birthday.
Oh my goodness.
57. And I literally feel like I'm just getting started.
Wow. That's amazing. That is absolutely incredible and inspiring. And I just love that you're experiencing it for yourself, but you're also gifting that and coaching other women through that process. I mean, that's why I just adore you so much. And I'm like, well, let's link arms and change the world.
Exactly. I'm in. I'm in
too. Oh my gosh. Thank you
so
much,
delightful.
Christine.
Thank you so much.
Likewise. Like I said before, we're going to put everything in the show notes so you can connect with Kristine. Instagram, we'll put her Instagram. What is your Instagram handle? It's The Arm Coach, but with a couple periods in between, right?
Yeah. the.arm.coach.
Got it. Definitely go give her a follow. Check out her programs we'll put them in the show notes below and just dive deep into all of her work because it is absolutely amazing, transformational. And I feel so blessed to have just spent this time with you and to have connected with you. So thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been my pleasure.
Absolutely. Well, guys, share this episode with your friend. I can't even tell you how many women need to hear this episode, how many women need to hear this message, especially because I know most of my followers are 40s, 50s, 60s. So pass this along, DM me, DM Kristine, and we would love to hear from you after you listen to this episode. And we will see you next week. Thanks for being here.